Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Arayeh with another episode of Joyful Living Show. And I have my beautiful guest from San Francisco, Raeeka Yaghmai. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation. How are you
Of course.
doing?
Thank you
Introduce
for having
yourself.
me. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, introduce yourself. Tell us what you do, and you can jump into the topic.
Of course. I am a trauma-informed relationship coach, and I work with people to transform the relationship with themselves so that they can transform their love life.
That's so beautiful. So that's the topic, of our conversation today. Tell us a little bit about. Let's start with self-love, and what does that look like? First, let's get to the self-love itself.
So self-love is, what is self-love, right? Self-love is a phrase that is so overused these days. And I see people just throwing it out there. It's kind of like trauma, everybody's just throwing it out there without actually knowing what it really means. And I think it's really important that we have a very clear idea of what self-love is before we can even talk about what its impact is on our love life or our relationships. So self-love is really knowing who your authentic self is. And then after we know that authenticity, after we're in touch with that authenticity, to then understand its values and its needs and to respect it, to stand up for it, and to honor it. That's what self-love is.
Beautiful, beautiful. When you mentioned the word authenticity, I remember this video from Gabor Mate, who's you were actually getting your certificate from now. But he talks about authenticity and attachment and how we as children we conduct sacrificed. We
Mhm.
sacrifice our authenticity because of our need for attachment, because that is a very like much bigger need because we needed to be seen and loved and accepted by our parents. So whatever our parents wanted us to be so we can make them comfortable because our cries and yelling and biting and hitting didn't make them comfortable, right? And they wanted to, they kept coercing us by giving us punishment and reward to stop our feelings. So we kind of gave up our authenticity, right? So now as adults we have already lost it because you were talking about it in the Persian version, right? That we
Yeah.
have to carry that package, right? That package, that or that suitcase from childhood doesn't go away.
Yeah.
That wiring doesn't go away. So tell us a little bit about that. How can we become aware and open that suitcase and see what's going on? What are the steps that will help us start knowing who we are?
So the whole process of the work you and I do is that,
Yes.
right?
Oh, the first step.
Right. The first step would be, and I say this with absolute love, that the first step to really getting to our authentic self is to accept that every single one of us humans, every single one of us require the process of healing and more so emotionally evolving and building emotional intelligence. Because we all accept as a society that we need to eat well and we need to exercise and we need to sleep well. But there's still a lot of taboo around spending uh, energy and investing time, money, and just personal energy into understanding who we are. We often still think that only people with problems have to heal. And again, healing is also a word that's often put out there without really knowing what it means. So I think that if we can accept that the process of healing means the process of growing, the process of really nurturing the inner child, because every one of us have that inner child inside of us. It's just human condition. And every one of us has had experiences in the childhood that has either been too much or too little of it, where we didn't have the correct emotional support from our caretakers.
Yes,
And
that's so
that's just human condition. There's no question about it.
sure.
Right.
So it's very important for people to understand that the word trauma, although it's a big word, is not just, when your mom passed away or you had some sort of disease or accident. It's actually a very human condition where our parents were stressed. They wanted us to brush our teeth and we didn't want to do it at that time. If they yelled, that's trauma. If they abandoned us, that's trauma. If they held our the hands really tight, that's trauma. If they even, like, when I wanted to do something and they didn't sit there and support us, as you said, to just and help us with that, like co-regulate with our emotions, and they just shove us some ice cream so we would forget about our crying, that's still trauma. I want to bring up something, so we will really have this, so it becomes kind of a common knowledge that, where, as you said, we all have these wounds, and unfortunately we are ruminating them. We keep getting re-traumatized by these traumas in
Right.
adulthood, in our relationship. And it's really important that all of us start looking within and figure out those. I remember there was this grandpa who bought cake pop from his for his 3-year-old granddaughter, and I was watching him at the mall, and he was like, "Oh, get the cake pop," and then he would pull it away. "Oh, get the cake pop," and he would pull it away. And you would think it's just an innocent game, right? It's something positive, but to that child, it's like, "Oh, I cannot trust this world. Like, it's so
Yeah.
within my reach, and I still
Yeah.
can't." So
Yeah.
trauma is very, very common, right?
Yeah.
So go ahead.
No, no. Yeah. I
Yeah.
absolutely agree with you.
Exactly. So it's just we have to really pause. And you said start inquiring within ourselves. And the best, I think, in our relationship, that's the best. It's like where Dr. Shefali says, like, there is a red carpet. Our relationships show us where those traumas are. So how can
Yes.
you bring that knowledge to our relationship? How can we improve and heal our relationship, knowing our authentic self and our wounds, and focusing on self-love? How is that relationship?
The it's fascinating to when we understand what our authentic self really is. And then when we look at our relationships and see how inauthentic we're showing up, and that doesn't mean we're bad. It just means that we are afraid to show up as really who we are. Something simple. Let's say I don't like camping. Really, actually, I don't like camping. So I don't like night camping, right? And let's say I'm going out with a guy who loves camping, right? For me to say, well, I mean, sure, I'll do it, and then like get the life, be with someone who wants a lifestyle of camping, and for years I wouldn't say anything about it when I'm so uncomfortable. That is you living in a relationship where it's not anymore about your needs getting met. You're actually comforting to conforming to somebody else's needs. Not only they don't get to know who your real self is, but also you're not getting your needs met. And that's it. This is really important. This does not mean that when we get in a relationship we should not compromise. And compromise doesn't mean maybe that word is not really the right word, that we shouldn't be collaborating with somebody. And yes, there are things that you're going to kind of pick the shade of gray. Okay, you want to do this, I will do this. Let's see how we can make that work. Because that's part of being in a relationship, is to actually, have forgiveness and allow for, if he wants to go to the opera and you don't really like the opera, you'll go once to the opera. But to actually have the lifestyle of somebody who has to go to the opera all the time, that's not you anymore. And those two things are very different. So when we don't know ourselves, when we don't understand that authenticity in ourselves, And more so when we understand it, but don't respect it, don't know how to communicate it, are not brave enough to set, compassionate boundaries. What happens is we get into relationships that are often not a match for us. And the extreme of it could be having a partner who's an abuser, right?
Yes,
Because we have learned that love means somebody constantly bullying us, because
exactly.
that's how we grew up.
Yes. So when you were bringing up that example of the camp, again, going back to Gabor Mate's, concept of authenticity versus attachment, that woman or a man, doesn't matter, when she says she doesn't stand up for herself and her, desires, she's actually sacrificing again, right? Her authenticity, her true desire for attachment, because she wants to be loved and accepted. She wants this person to see her. And it's very important, I think. I always say, come on, there's like 8 billion people in this world, but every relationship that we have, we become so entangled with that need of being accepted and loved. And well, not every relationship is there to help us grow in an easeful and joyful manner. They're all there to grow, to make us grow, but we want ease and grace. We don't want suffering. So
Right.
it's just, but that we get so trapped. We get trapped in these relationships because see me, love me, don't reject me. So it's the fear of rejection, and we are willing to keep
Exactly.
sacrificing our
Yes.
authenticity.
Yes, and that really, you just like nailed it on the head, is that the impact of lack of self-love on our romantic relationship is that we often then pay for it in a way that we lose ourselves. And that can really mess up somebody's nervous system. And when your nervous system is messed up, everything in your life is impacted, not just like like the way you feel, but also your creativity, the way you manage your life, the relationship you have with your kids, the relationship that you have with the world around you. What you're capable, your capabilities just constantly get smaller and smaller. And I've firsthand experienced that myself, and I've also seen that happening with clients that I work with so often.
So often, yes. So one of the things that I always say, this is the policy of my life. I'm like, if in this moment, whatever I do, whatever I say, whatever I eat, is gonna bring me joy, it's gonna bring me that inner peace and love, I'm gonna do it. If not, let's question it. Let's
Yeah.
question it. So it's very important to get untrapped from these
Yes.
trappy situations. It's just to really pause and ask ourselves, am I, like, we're from 0 to 10, how often I'm actually hitting 10, which by the way, we barely do, and we have to make it a practice to do it. But
Right.
am I really at 2 and 3 all the time? Well, it's time to really reevaluate. And it doesn't mean that we're going to separate, but it's just
No, not at
understanding,
all.
yeah, just to start that journey of knowing who I am, and maybe I can communicate my authenticity to the other person, and the other person is okay with that, and we just assume they're not. So,
Yeah.
and as you said, to communicate and all those things. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and the last words, and we can wrap it up.
What's that?
We have 2 more minutes if you want to just wrap it up.
Well, I guess my last words are, know that self-love is not about being selfish. It's not about, being unkind. It's actually, the more you love yourself, the more you know yourself, the more you're confident and love the who that you are, the more compassionate you're going to be towards others, because there's
Oh,
nothing threatening you.
I love that. I love that mantra. All love is self-love. It always starts within us. It's really like it's never selfish.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for accepting my invitation. Come back again. And thank you, everyone. Just leave your comments and questions for us. Please follow Raeeka Yaghmai. Thank you. Love
Thank
you
you
all.
so much. Bye.
Bye.